All right, boss members. So today we have another influential professional from around the world, Ray Green. How are you today?
I could not be better. No malos dias, as we say down here in Cabo.
Yeah, well, I was going to say,
No
where's your
bad
part of the
days.
world? So Cabo it is. We're
Always.
wearing long sleeve shirts here today. It's a little cool in Oklahoma, but I envy you. And so do our boss members. So we have small business owners in the group. Every month we bring a challenge to an influencer from around the world. I've followed you for quite a few years, enjoyed your content. I value it. It works. I trust it. So that's who we have on these shows. And one of the topics that small business owners are challenged with today is sales revenue, especially with the chat GBT and everything else that's going on around us, the abundance of social media, people, influencers telling them to do one thing and do this, don't do that. And so you're a trusted expert. So I just want to deep dive into sales, your experience, and anything that you have to offer, maybe the top 3 things that every business owner should either work on, focus on, and I'll just let you go.
Well, I appreciate it, man, and happy to dive in. And I appreciate the kind words too, man. The interesting thing about advice, like you mentioned, there's from different influencers or just thought leaders or people giving advice. One of the challenges is you look online and that advice conflicts with that advice, or should I do that one or should I do that one? And I think the interesting thing about all advice that you see on social media, including this, right? Like any of it, is context is always required. It's like tactics follow strategy. And most of what I see in my feed, most of it's like tactical advice. Use this tool or use this tactic or use this technique or use this practice. And one of my mentors taught me early, like tactics follow strategy. And so it's easy to get stuck on that like treadmill of I'm trying different things. I'm trying this. I'm trying that. I'm trying this. And when I hear that, I typically hear, hey, maybe what's missing is the strategy piece, like the vision or the strategies. Yeah, hopefully we can dive in, happy to answer any questions or share anything that I have tactically or strategically, see how I can help.
I agree with you. Strategy comes first. I think you and I have kind of engaged with each other on LinkedIn when it comes to when somebody posts something about the North Star, your guiding light, things like that. So where does a small business owner start? Because that's when I work with small business owners as a business coach, they know they need a plan, but they just don't know where to start because there's so much they need to do. So what is some advice or guidance that you could give to where somebody could sit down and just kind of simplify it and start here? What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's a really good question and really common. And you've gone through this. I've gone through this. So you say, okay, I know I need this plan. I know I need this vision. How do I do that? When people come into my program, there's something that I always start with. It's called Vision Founder Fit. And Vision Founder Fit is a process that I run with any solopreneur, client based, whether it's an agency, consultant, whatever it is, like any small business owner. One of the things that you want to do is you want to identify what's really important to you as a founder. What's important, like why did you start this business? What are the things that you need this business to deliver? And it has to go beyond money. Like money is a component, like money and the revenue that you generate, the income that you generate is a really important piece of why you started this business. But most people start a business for other reasons beyond just money. Like, because there's actually a lot of times, most entrepreneurs will tell you, you can make money more easily other ways. This isn't always the easy route. So what were those things that you started this business for? Was it location independence? Like I live in Cabo, and for me, like one of the things that was really important for me and my family was location independent, so whether it's a client or an employer, anyone that comes along, like I know that there's some boundaries. Is it freedom of control? Is it autonomy? Is it using a certain part of your creativity? Is it like understanding what motivates you as a founder? What gives you energy? What drains your energy? What are the things that you easily find flow doing? Like that when you start doing, you just like, you lose track of time. You actually love doing it. And then what are those things that you go, oh, I don't really want to do this. And even I have a client that's paying me really well to do this, but really don't want to do it. What are those things? I would do a personal audit, right? Like where you're allocating your time, where you're allocating your energy, the things that are draining it, that give you energy. What are the tasks that are easier for you than they are most people? What are the things that when you do them, your peers, your friends, your employees, your colleagues, whoever say, damn, that only took you that long? And you go, yeah, this is easy. What are your superpowers? The reason I do that is what I want to do to get your vision, to get it dialed in, is I want to separate you as a founder and what your vision is going to be and what you need the business to deliver Because once I know those things, then I say, okay, what needs to be true of the business to make that happen? Because there are an infinite number of business models. You could go high ticket sales, you could go low ticket sales, you could go done for you services, you can go done with you services, you can do coaching, you can do consulting, you can do advising. So people get overwhelmed. They say, "Oh, all right, I know I want to go out on my own. I've got a little bit of traction on this thing, but how do you intentionally design a business with an unlimited number of options?" My view is figure out what you want it to deliver first, and then say what needs to be true of the business to make that happen. Now, what we have is a structure or framework that we can say, all right, now how do we build that business? What do we need to do to reverse engineer? And it's a little bit, Stephen Covey always said, begin with the end in mind. Figure out the destination, figure out where we're going, at least directionally. What does this thing need to deliver? Got it. Now let's work backwards from that. How do we start doing that? What are the immediate next steps that I have to do? And so that's what I look at. I look at it and I say, that's the vision. Then the next piece is the strategy, right? That's how are we going to do that? And then the tactics are tools, practices, techniques, things like day-to-day execution that we do to implement the strategy.
That's great advice. I find that almost every small business owner cannot ask or answer that question of where do you want to go? And I always go back to Alice in Wonderland when she asked that little creature, which path should I take and where do you want to go? Well, I don't know. Then what does it matter? I find a lot of small business owners get stuck just right there. That's a great starting point.
And the reason I know this is because I did it, right? Like when I went out on my own, I did what most people do. I went out and I said, hey, I got to find some clients. So I hustle to get some initial business. That's fine to get started. But at some point, when you want to build a business, you have to get into a proactive mindset. So actually, like stealing again from Covey, but proactive and reactive. If you don't have a vision, if you don't have a strategy, then you're always going to be stuck in a reactive state of mind, which means the market and your clients are going to dictate your potential, right? Like if you're just hustling from client to client, like the Alice in Wonderland example is a really good one. If you don't know the destination, how are you going to build an accurate roadmap? And how are you going to know if you're on track? How are you going to know if you're making progress? How are you going to know like all of the turns and the obstacles that may come along the way? You've got to dial that in. And it doesn't have to be absolute pinpoint GPS, but you at least have to directionally know where you're going and you have to have some boundaries. Otherwise, you're in a reactive state of mind, meaning anybody that comes along with a checkbook says, hey, I need X done. And you go, okay, that's a really tough way to build a business.
Absolutely. So once we get past the knowing where we're going, what would you say is kind of the next step, saying we need to bring some income in? Because we hear a lot about CRMs, we hear about sales funnels and email sequences, all that stuff. I mean, what are, just to get going, because I find that so many small business owners they've reached this bottleneck and they just can't seem to get past it. I mean, any advice you have for those situations of if we just need to get some income coming, what's next steps?
Sure. I look at it and I'd say, the two bottlenecks that I see most often, one is at product market fit, and then one is at founder led sales. And so at product market fit, like that's the stage where when you're just trying to get some initial cash flow going in, two ways to look at that. Like one is I need to go get some cash, right? And it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You got to eat, right? So do whatever you got to do, hustle, like sell cold, like whatever you got to do, get some cash coming in the door. But once you have some cash coming in the door, what you've got to look at is product market fit. Do you have a clear offer, a clear service, a clear solution to the market that you can communicate in a consistent way? Because one thing, so I do a lot of consulting, right? I do a lot of coaching. And what I found when I started was I was trying to market myself based on my expertise. Hey, I'm Ray. I've been in sales and sales management for 15 years. I've been in executive leadership for a long time. Like I'm fairly sharp guy. I've got a good education, good experience. I can help you solve a lot of problems, sales, revenue, things like that. Well, that's really hard to market. That's not a clear product. It's not a clear offer. It's not a clear solution. So the audience doesn't know, are you for me? Or are you just like, are you selling or how does it work? And I'd get into these sales processes where everything I was doing was like, well, it depends. I can probably help you do this. I'm writing custom proposals and this and that. I say, productize yourself, productize an offer in such a way that you can communicate it as clear as I can communicate what this phone is. Like, do you have a product to sell? Do you have a solution to a problem? That is the only way that you're going to find product market fit. It's the only way that you're going to be able to market consistently. And it's one of the reasons I see people putting content out on a daily basis. They're like, Ray, I'm posting every day. It's not going anywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm trying to start conversations, but you look at it and you say, what exactly are you selling? Is it abundantly clear the problem that you solve and who you solve it for? If you don't know those two things, you will never find product market fit. And if you don't find product market fit, you can't scale. Right.
Yeah.
So that's one part of this. And the key ingredients to that are, do you know your target market? Do you know exactly who you're talking to? Do you know the situation and the problem that they're having that you solve? And do you know your USP, like your unique selling proposition? In other words, why are you different, right? If you're selling plumbing services, what makes you better or different than the next plumber? Because if you can't tell the market that, they're not going to know what it is, which means you're a commodity and commodities are chosen on price. And the USP, I believe, is one of the most important things that most small businesses just don't do. Like, hey, I'm going to get into welding or consulting or whatever it is. They never take the time to really differentiate why me, what sets me apart. And then you get commoditized and then you're in no man's land when it comes to rates and revenue. So I would dial those things in. The second bottleneck that I see is usually founder-led sales. So say you get product market fit, things start going, you've got revenue coming in, but you're the person that's doing the sales calls. You're the person that's doing the follow-up, or you're trying to hire salespeople and you're like, God, I just keep churning salespeople. They come in, they don't know what they're doing, or people don't want to work anymore, or whatever it is. And it's because there's no process. There's not a repeatable, scalable process for what you're doing. And I find that tends to be the next stage of the cap. Like, how do I get out of this process and start running the business instead of being chief sales officer and trying to be chief executive officer and probably chief client success officer and everything else. So yeah, that's where I see the bottlenecks most of the time.
No, those are solid points because I see the same thing. And for a lot of small business owners, they are the bottleneck. How long? So through the process of discovering these things, because I don't know if it's an excuse. It could be valid for some. I don't have enough time. So kind of lead us through the process of what you found to be kind of an average amount of time, or maybe a good game plan of like, hey, let's break this out. Week 1, this, week 2, or month 2, whatever, so that you can kind of dial those in.
Whenever I hear I don't have enough time, like you have as much as I do, we have the exact same amount of time. The difference is what I'm allocating my time on. And what I tend to find, both with myself and with other entrepreneurs, is we let the fires, the day-to-day fires, the urgency of things, take priority over anything that has a longer term play. Meaning I've got fires in the business today, so I'm responding to my emails, or I've got this issue that came up, or people are hitting me up on Slack, or somebody on my team has this problem. So you get to the end of the day, you've put out all the fires, or even no, you haven't probably, but you've put out all the fires, but you haven't moved the business forward in any meaningful way on the big rocks, on the strategic priorities that need to be happening. I do 2 things. One is I audit my time. So I'm actually in the middle right now of a 2-week time audit. And I use an app called Toggle, Togl. I have no affiliation with it, but the reason I recommend it is because it's so easy to use. And it's on my mobile app, it's on my watch, it's on my thing. So I can track, like generally speaking, for 2 weeks, I'll say this is where time is going. And it will be either going to management, strategy, administration, content creation. I have like different categories. I look at it at the end of 2 weeks. And every single time, I'm telling you, every single time, and I even know that I'm tracking it, I look at it and go, wow. And there's 20 to 30% of my time that is going somewhere that could be going somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And a former client of mine, Dan Martell, just released a book called Buy Back Your Time. I recommend it. Like it is a great tool for understanding where I can take this time audit. Like, how do I make this actionable and start to source the things that I shouldn't be doing, right? So that's one part of it. The other thing that I do is I run my day from my calendar proactively. Like my wife even knows this. Like we have a shared calendar. If it needs to be done, like it's got to be in my calendar. And the reason I do that is because that's how I prioritize the things that will otherwise get crowded out, right? It's the way that I'm able to work out every day. It's the way that I'm able to ensure that every week I have at least 4 to 6 hours focused on strategy. It's the only reason that I'm able to create content and do all these other things, because they get blocked into my calendar. Everything else like has to get booked around that. So I create those appointments with myself and I know what those priorities are. And if I don't do that, the fires just burn the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's solid. And so we are coming from a place of experience because I've done the same thing that you mentioned that you did. I was horrible at it at first. Being a business coach, I still have coaches. I have an accountability coach that keeps me on track. So kind of like your toggle, but a human being helps me with that. But what I love about what you're bringing today is that when we talk about sales, we're usually talking about pitches, lead forms, and you're talking more like, no, this is strategy. Like to have sales, increase sales, you have to slow down to go fast. And I think that's what a lot of business owners kind of where they miss the mark is because we think I've just got to get more sales to pay the bills. And in my head, I'm like, why don't you just slow down for a couple of weeks? Because what's another couple of weeks of not having money and figure this thing out first, then the money will follow. I love your advice. And what was the name of that book again?
Buy Back Your Time.
Okay. Buy Back Your Time. And then
Dan Martell.
Dan Martell. Okay. This is solid nuggets here. I mean, you've been tremendous value. And for all of our small business owners, we got a piece of his calendar. So I feel very special to be part of your calendar today. So I appreciate that. Anything you want to share as far as on your end, how you can help small business owners, like website, they can go follow you, LinkedIn, can they connect with you, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You can Google Ray J, the letter J, Green, and you can check out my website, rayjgreen.com. If you're a founder and you're looking to scale or productize, like that's one thing that I do really well. And the other is we're actually rolling out a new productized service to help founders remove themselves from the sales process that we're actually going to announce next month. So I haven't actually told that to anybody. So
you heard it live here.
I appreciate the invite. Thanks, man.
I appreciate you. Enjoy all your good stuff. Any final words for a small business owner?
My only final words, man, are keep going. There are days that every single one of us, at least me and all the founders I know, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So if you're struggling at all, like just keep plowing forward and get clear on your vision. Remind yourself why you're doing this and keep rolling.
Yeah, that's powerful right there because I know I have those days even to this day. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. But I go back to my why, my purpose, my passion. And I'm like, because I help small business owners and I just remember how many need help, figuring things out, getting through challenges. And I promise you, he is telling truth there. So go figure out your vision and all those other good things. And appreciate you again. And we will see you all next month with another professional influencer from around the world.
Thanks for watching. I really hope you got some value out of this. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button for me and subscribe to the channel for more of our content. And if you want to find out a little bit more about me and how we can help you build your business and grow sales, feel free to check out rayjgreen.com, RAY letters J, GREEN.com. Thanks again.